Saori Okawa. I'm here to support no on Proposition 22 because the law passed that we are employees of Uber and Lyft, and they're just breaking the law, and they put so much money to put this ballot on November election, and it doesn't make sense. Instead of helping us and supporting us and giving us protection, they just wanted to spend that money to fight against us, and I think it's a very nasty thing to do.
How long have you been driving?
I was driving Uber full-time 1 year, and before that Lyft for 1 year with part-time. So yeah, I've seen both companies and they're both the same. So the prices kept dropping. Every 3 months the prices kept dropping without notice, and we said, okay, they dropped again. What are we gonna do? Okay, no choice. And then they lowered the bonus. So I had to work sometimes 7 a.m., come back home 7 p.m. Not even, the average I made was 180 something, and that's divided by 12. It's lower than minimum wage. That's 11 something, and that's excluding my gas and my car rental fee. So, and I live in San Francisco. How a lot of drivers are like that. It's like a sweatshop. So if people want to boycott sweatshop products like H&M, it's like the same thing. The passengers, if they know that it's a sweatshop, I think they know not to really take the ride, or you know.
Do you think that they should pay workers' compensation and other things like that?
Yes, especially if we're working for over 40 hours, that's a full time. We deserve it, because when we work that many hours, we're prone to a lot of accidents because we get tired, and a lot of traffic in San Francisco Bay Area, and no protection, and who's gonna pay for the hospital, everything? Yes.
You know any drivers who've been in accidents?
A lot. A lot of us got into at least one accident, no matter what. Yes. So, and he was a full-time driver too. So, yeah.
Can you talk about why you're here today?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Peter. I've been driving with Uber and Lyft for about over 5 years. Seen a lot of the changes. I think there's both sides to this argument, and I would love a discussion with Uber about why they'd be opposed to it. Is it just financial? Probably is. But I think with shelter in place and everything we've been going through, everybody's had to make sacrifices and change in order to, accommodate the new way of life during the pandemic. And I think Uber needs to adjust now.
How's the pandemic affected you?
Well, certainly less work and more risk in general when you're driving someone. I'll give you a good example. Uber or Lyft should have negotiated with someone who creates divisions within the car. Whether they want to pay for it or we pay for it and deduct it off the 1099 on Schedule C. They didn't do that. They haven't negotiated with a company to provide a division within our car. That's an example to me that they're focused on the finances and not the humanity that we all need to deal with nowadays during the pandemic. We all need to take care of each other.
And workers that get in accidents, no workers' comp, what happens?
Well, you pay for it if you can. Usually you wait it out, But you've got your own health insurance, right? We pay for it, right? I mean, that's just what's going to happen. You're not going to get workers' comp because we're not officially employed yet.
You think they should be paying workers' comp?
I think there needs to be a division of workers' comp. If you work full-time, yeah. If not, then a percentage of it. I mean, if you're working all the time for a certain company, there should be a desire to be responsible for that driver. And there doesn't seem to be a desire for that because it's financially difficult for them to do that. I think that there needs to be some sort of working out of how to take care of the drivers and get profitable for them so they can stay in business. Yeah. Peter.
My name is Alan. I'm a Lyft driver and have been for the last 3 years. And I'm excited today because we're in front of Uber headquarters and letting them know that we're a little unsettled about their reactions to AB5 and Proposition 22.
And they're spending a lot of money on this ballot initiative.
They certainly are. The estimates are over 110 million as of this day. And the ballot initiative, as we feel, drivers, is just contrary to AB5, which has already been approved by the state legislature. And they're actually taking our lessened earnings and using them against us.
Why don't they want to pay your unemployment, Social Security, workers' comp?
Well, essentially what happened was, according to a Berkeley study, they did not pay it for a period of almost 3 years from 2012 to 2015. And the amount that they got away with in the state of California was in excess of $400 million. And we know that increased their bottom line of their stock valuation. So they've become comfortable with the idea that they don't have to follow the rules.
And isn't it a crime not to have workers' comp for employees?
Well, that's the whole deal. They wanted to classify us as independent contractors. Thankfully, the wisdom of our state legislature had them realize, no, they're employees. We drivers are employees.
My name is Chris Ariano. I live in San Bruno, and I'm out here to give a demonstration of solidarity with other drivers groups. We're trying real hard to defeat Proposition 22, cheap employee status, join a union, because we think that's the only way that we could get Lyft and Uber to take us seriously.
What do you think about Lyft closing down today?
Yeah, I think it's predictable. You know, it's they're pushing back. This is it's a sign of a desperate corporation. You know, we've had a lot of legislative victories, a lot of victories in the courthouse, and nobody said that this was going to be an easy battle, something that we could win in a heartbeat. And this is a sign of how desperate they are.
My name is Idan Alva. I've been a Lyft driver since 2014, and I'm an organizer and driver leader with Gig Workers Rising.
What is Gig Workers Rising?
Gig Workers Rising is an advocacy group that has been fighting for the rights and improvement of working conditions for gig app-based workers.
So what's happening today? I understand Lyft is shut down. What do you think is going to happen? Why aren't they following the law?
Yeah, unfortunately, Lyft and Uber decided to use their regular tactics, which is bullying drivers, bullying the public, and threatening to pull out, to shut down the business, or shutting down the business for a while, just so that they can get what they want.
And what are the conditions of the drivers? They say that drivers like it, they can work part-time, as needed, gig workers, they should be happy.
Those companies keep providing misinformation as though there is a connection between flexibility and the status of independent contractor, or lack of flexibility as employees. These are lies. Drivers want the work to continue, and they want Lyft and Uber to comply with the law, which is providing livable working conditions to their workers, minimum wage plus benefits. Nothing more, nothing less. It's not a way to get rich, it's a way to be able to exist. And Lyft and Uber care more about their bottom line and about the enormous profits they made off our back so far than they do about their drivers. So they don't want to reduce even minimally their profit margins in order to comply with the law, basically.
And how is the public affected by this when they don't pay unemployment, or they don't pay Social Security or workers' comp? Taxpayers
are the ones who end up paying the bottom line of the predatory business model of these companies. People are being pushed into poverty, which falls on public funds. People are becoming homeless. People are becoming a burden on the health providers. All sorts of public funds are being spent because Lyft and Uber don't provide their workers the basic safety net that any employer should provide it. Experience shows that people who do this work for a long time are very likely to end up in extreme poverty to the point of homelessness, in complete financial failure. This work does not allow people to save anything for rainy days. We work and we use the money that we earn immediately to exist. That means that little things can immediately knock us off our feet, whether it's car accident or slight mishaps like flat tires and so on. Any unexpected expenses may get people who work in this position and rely on it for a living into homelessness. These companies are trying to keep it that way because they rely on people's poverty so that they continue to do this job. It's important for the public to understand that Lyft and Uber have no problem following the law and doing what any decent company should have done. They just choose not to in order to maintain their profits.
And this law, why don't you talk about AB5, when it passed and what it means for this companies like Uber?
AB5 is simply a definition. What happened is that over the years, Lyft and Uber were misclassifying drivers. So the courts that came with a definition that's very easy to understand and to apply to prevent this misclassification. The government went, or Assembly Member Lorena Gonzalez initiated legislation based on court verdicts that clarifies exactly who's an employee and who's an independent contractor. Throughout this time, from years ago and after this legislation, AB5, that clarifies things, drivers have been employees, not contractors. This is clear to anyone who understands a little bit in labor laws. However, these companies refuse to accept it. They misrepresent themselves in courts, they lie, they provide misinformation to convince even drivers and the public that drivers are contractors. That is not the case. It has never been the case. And Lyft and Uber are doing it strictly to maintain their bottom line and be able to continue with extremely high earnings on the back of drivers.
And Dar, one of the owners or executives, said that 80,000 drivers are in favor of Prop 22. That's their
I don't have the statistics. All I know is that drivers who understand what the reality is support us. Members of the public who know the truth support us. What happens is that, again, Lyft and Uber put out so much misinformation out there. They send drivers notification through the app, threatening them of shutdown, blaming the government, blaming everybody else like a bully, exactly like a bully, blaming everyone else except for taking the responsibility for their actions and following the law.
And so when did this bill pass, AB5?
I'm sorry?
When did the bill pass, AB5?
AB5 passed last year around September, I believe, and was in effect starting January this year.
Now, so since January, they're supposed to have followed the law.
Yep, but even before that they did follow the law. I mean, the fact is that even the Becerra test that existed before the AB5 test would have landed up as employees. They simply use all sorts of legal maneuver, anything just to avoid from following the law and continuing.
They spend a lot of money on lawyers.
Yeah, they spend a lot of time in court, and it's not just in the United States, it's worldwide. They keep having regulatory problems because they keep treating their workers like disposable components of their money machine.
Well, under the workers' comp law, companies are required to cover their employees by workers' comp insurance.
Yes,
have they done that?
No, they haven't. And there is workers' comp, there is disability. There are all these things that are critical in this work because you're talking about driving. People are getting hurt, are injured, may die, and their families need to exist. And these companies are continually putting the public and hundreds and thousands of drivers at risk and increased homelessness.
Do you think that they should be criminally prosecuted? Do you think that the executives should be criminally prosecuted for
I personally think that their crime is much worse than if I was robbed at the street corner. Let's say it this way. Robbery is robbery. I'm not sure what you call a labor theft on a mass scale where hundreds of thousands of people are being robbed on a daily basis from the value of their labor.
And What about unionization? What do you think the workers should do? Should they join unions, or what's the end game with this?
Right now, I personally am not focused on that. I think that overall, in the United States, the way for workers to keep their rights is to come together and negotiate collectively with the employer. That's the system here. It can be joining unions, it can be forming our own driver-led union. There are all sorts of ways to go about it. I'm certainly all for collective bargaining. And right now, I'm focused on making these companies just follow the law and treat us, it's not like I'm expecting to get rich here, but treat us fairly, give the minimum wage and basic labor protections as prescribed by law.
And do you know personally any drivers have been harmed by being in this situation? Like accidents or what's happening?
I know of drivers, not personally. I certainly know cases of people who died in car accidents, who were attacked, who all sorts of mishaps that happened or that got severely injured. All sorts of situations where drivers were exposed to risk, were harmed, and are left with nothing.
My God, they come to strike for, the gig worker, They don't want to pay the benefit, that's the problem.
I think the quote-unquote disruptors have been ripping off the workers, they've been ripping off the consumers, and the state of California, after many years, came together over a profound piece of legislation, Assembly Bill 5, that was passed by both houses. Not an easy thing to do in the face of huge amounts of money, signed by the governor, and now they have spent literally hundreds of millions of dollars to try to overturn the will of our duly elected representatives in Sacramento. And it's time to fight back, and we have got to make sure that AB 22 loses in the state of California on November 3rd.
It's a crime not to pay workers' comp.
So let's be clear. The fundamental fight here is, are these drivers independent contractors or employees? And Uber and Lyft have spent many, many years exploiting workers and claiming that they're independent contractors for workers' comp and other benefits are not due. And there was an earlier court decision called Dynamex, and then there was Assembly Bill 5 that codified Dynamex. And now we are living this in real time with literally over $100 million being spent by Uber and Lyft to overturn AB5. And I think the people of the state of California, and certainly the people of the city and county of San Francisco, are smart and they get it, and they care about workers, and they care about fair wages and benefits and paid time off and sick leave and health care. And all of this is going to come to a head in 70 days.
Do you think they should be criminally prosecuted, the owners, for refusing to pay what is required under the law?
No, that's a really good question. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a prosecutor. I'm a San Francisco supervisor. But if there's criminal wrongdoing, I hope that the Attorney General of the state of California, that the District Attorney of the city and county of San Francisco will go down that road if there's criminal wrongdoing. And look, let's be clear. Uber did do things that were criminal. Relative to silencing journalists early on. The Travis Kalanick days were some of the most extraordinary, illegal, unethical, and immoral behaviors that we've seen from corporate America in my lifetime.
So we are not backing down. Tens of thousands of drivers who have built this movement aren't going to abandon the fight for every worker's rights for basic benefits and protection. Just because a handful of CEOs have taken their marbles and run away. These companies made their choice. Today, we are making ours. And we are choosing to continue this fight. So no one, not Uber, not Lyft, DoorDash, or any other corporation can exploit our hard work for extra profit. I urge everyone to vote no on Measure 22 before it's too late.